All right, good morning, traders. TG Watkins here. It is September 6th when I'm recording this. Hope you guys are doing well out there. And we've got a few things to go through today. We've got the non-farm payroll, TLT, so interest rates are coming down because, idea that non-farm payroll was not great. It was a big miss. And so the idea that the economy or jobs are starting to slip and so that the Fed is going to cut rates is kind of, up and kind of top of mind now that we have September. And so there's something like a 90% likelihood that the Fed is going to cut in September. So I think the market is looking forward to that. As we saw, we did reach new all-time highs Friday. Now, it did get sold into pretty heavily. That's okay. I still think the market's kind of resting, still isn't quite ready to get going. I'm going to show you the reasons why I think that is. We're going to get to that when we talked about some of the other stocks. And then I wanted to let you know a little housekeeping. I just finished, I think it was on Thursday, the third and final bonus class, breakout class of the Moxie membership. So if you're in the Moxie trading room, and this one was all about long-term trading and long-term Moxie setups because we're in a bull market. I know that it's been a little bit rough for September and August, but really the market's just been sideways, which I think is actually pretty good. So consolidating over time is just as good as pulling back to support. And that's what we're seeing. So I wanted to talk to everybody in the Moxie room about these long-term setups because, hey, some people don't want to do short-term trading. Some people don't want to do day trading. They have large cash accounts or just want to be investing. And I wanted to show you how I see the market and how to do this. So all you have to do is come into the Moxie room. It's simplertrading.com/Moxie. And you can sign up for that. And then you can get the class I just did on Thursday plus the 2 previous classes because everything is recorded. And we had some pretty good feedback. So CZ was saying that it was well worth the price of admission. Said one of Simpler's best. Thank you. And then Yeshan said, always inspired by your technical insights because that's what I do. I look at charts and I make sure that people kind of see how the market works as far as how I view it. And then Michael Standard was, he was new and he said, I just signed up because of the 0DT stuff. So I've been putting some videos out about that and how I actually do 0DT. We had a pretty good streak this week. We had, I think, three wins and then 1 loss. So I'd say that's pretty good. And the wins were pretty nice. So I did get caught up on Thursday. The market just kept going up. I do think it was a bit of a short squeeze. I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, welcome, Michael. Glad to see you guys are here. As we come into this, I want to show you a couple other things. BMNR, as far as Bitminer, Ethereum, there was some news. Actually, let me show you this news first, because this was kind of, it took Bitcoin down a little bit and some Ethereum stocks down, because the news looked a little bit troublesome about NASDAQ requirements for crypto treasury firms and all that kind of stuff. So I put a little bit of cold water on it. And I was like, okay, seems like something new. Let me go look into it a little bit. My understanding, and this is part of what Tom Lee is saying and Bitminer is reporting, but it says that this doesn't affect them because they are actually listed on the NYSE. Okay, so maybe this is a little technical detail, but still it seems to be okay and fine. And basically Tom Lee says this isn't a problem, so I'm going with that. I do own BMNR, pretty good size in it. Same thing with the Moxie group, so I just wanted to show you guys that. And then kind of on top of that, news came out that Cathie Woods was continuing to buy BMNR in her various ETFs. So even more commitment from a very public person like that. And we already know that there are a lot of other big names and big funds in BMNR. So I think that is, I think that's going to be working. I know there's also some controversy about these treasury stocks or treasury companies, but we saw that MSTR, Michael Saylor, did work pretty well with Bitcoin. When Bitcoin was going up, MSTR was going up even faster. And it seems to me that at least the idea is that the BMNR is going to also appreciate even faster once Ethereum's up. Now Ethereum's been going crazy. We know that Ethereum's like at new all-time highs, and so I definitely also want a piece of Ethereum. And then we can also talk about a few other things that happened in the market. We had the S&P add a few more stocks. So I think the big ones here is AppLovin got added to the S&P 500, and Robinhood finally got added to the S&P 500. Both of them are up in the overnight. The market stayed open for about 15 minutes after the close on Friday, and you can see that they jumped up. I'll show you them. And then some of these other ones, if you're interested, there are a couple other names that got included to the S&P, but really APP and Hood are the big ones. So are they ready to buy? Well, we'll go check it out and see what's going on. And then Tesla. Tesla was also in the news, Elon Musk, because of his new pay package. So I wanted to do this and see. I should have another screenshot. I wanted to see what this actually meant, as far as like what is his pay package going to actually look like? How much does that actually go up? And so I decided to ask Grok. I was like, well, how much? What stock price does Tesla need to be in order for some of this stuff to hit? And this is what it gave me back. So we'll see if this is accurate and what about it. But basically, for the first tranche, the 2 trillion market cap, Tesla would need to be $617, and right now it's $635 or $640. Jumped up a little bit. So basically, almost a double. The price would have to double. Okay, good to know. There's some incentive for Elon to get it up there, and hey, maybe this is the thing that's going to finally start driving Tesla higher because it's been basing for quite some time. Now, for the full award, 8.5 trillion market cap, the stock price would have to be $2,600. Wow. Okay. Now, I believe he has 10 years to do this as far as that final one. So if you guys are long-term traders and long-term investors, you now know that Elon has a target of $2,600 for Tesla, and maybe you want to go buy some leaps based on that. Okay, so I've been talking about leaps. I put a few videos out about that. We did some long-term trading stuff. Maybe news like this, maybe this gives you a little bit more emphasis to want to put it into for Tesla. And yeah, we can also see here's the Tesla pay package for Elon and all that. So you guys can go read a little bit more about it and see what's going on and all the things he has to do in order to hit that pay package. So yeah, a lot of stuff kind of going on out there. Okay, let's dive into the market. We'll talk about the indices and what I see. Breadth, we'll talk about VIX, and then we'll talk about a few names down here that I think are relevant to the conversation and what I want to show you as far as the market out there. Now, if we come over here, the SPX hit new all-time highs on Friday based on the jobs report. Now, I know that might seem silly. It was a huge jobs report miss. Basically, it sounds like jobs in the economy coming down. But bad news is good news for the market because it means that interest rates are most likely coming. So this helps reinforce that. I do think that Thursday was a bit of a short squeeze. A lot of people I know out there, professional traders, big funds and stuff like that, they were actually looking for Thursday to be a quiet day because they weren't thinking that the market was really going to go up a lot into a big announcement like NFP, but it did. And I didn't even know a few big traders who lost money that day. So did I. I took a bad trade. So that was my one loss for the week as far as my zero DT stuff. And so we got out and then the market jumped up like that. And, I did miss a good opportunity. That was when price just jumped up like that. It was in outer space. It was way too high. It was outside all of the metrics and it was unsupported. I should have put on a short play. That was a great short play. Now, during the time I was live on the mic with the Moxie traders. So if you guys are interested, this is when you can come catch me. I'm on the mic at least an hour every day. And I said, don't be too worried. Let's first see where it's going to come down to support and see what it does. And sure enough, it came into support and it basically bounced for the day. So I know it looked pretty brutal in the morning and we had a lot of people kind of like, oh my gosh, is this like, is this the blow off top and now we're going to crash? I was like, give it a little bit of time. Let's kind of see what happens. I first just think that this was overdone to the upside. And sure enough, it was so far. And really, you can see that the S&P just can't go down. It just has not been going down. We've been getting dips and dips and dips, but they keep getting bought up. So I do think this is starting to show that it has some pretty good resiliency. And if we actually look at the higher time frame, I have been looking for price to come down a little bit further, anywhere underneath the weekly 8. I don't know if it's going to do that. It may not do that right now. Maybe it's going to do it later. Right now, it seems to be cooling off with a passage of time, and that that's what it's doing. It's just resting. So it doesn't necessarily need to pull back. It could just go sideways for a while. And as I said, I think that seems to be what it's doing. So then let's look at the RSP. This is the equal weight of the S&P. And if we come over here, let me get the little different screen. There we go. And you can see the RSP really doesn't have too much of a problem either. I was looking at this as being a little bit elevated going into this week, and we did get a pullback. You can see right there, we got that pullback that I was kind of prepared for, but then we're right back up. And again, mostly this is going sideways. We had a huge move off of the tariff tantrum lows, and we are running into some resistance, and we are into some seasonal weakness. We do have August and September as being seasonally weak. And the market, instead of actually going down, is really just kind of going sideways. And whether a lot of people are prepared for this, I think everyone's been super prepared that the market's been going down. And so a lot of people have been buying more puts and the VIX has been going up and stuff like that. I think that there might be a chance that the market actually frustrates the bears and just kind of goes sideways until it's ready to go higher. We're not seeing really a rip-roaring market, but also we're not seeing a down market. So this is actually pretty good. Let's look at the NASDAQ. Kind of the same situation. We saw a little bit of a pop-up, and you can see right now that pop-up was basically a double top. Okay, but I also don't think the double top that it's going to just roll over and go down, because you can see all these dips just keep getting bought. And look at the daily chart. We're really just kind of flagging into the daily 50, and we still have the 8 over the 21. Like this market, instead of going down, it's really just going sideways. And I think that's really fine and really fair. And if we can just kind of keep maintaining this until the market is ready to go higher, this will be really pretty strong. It's fixing its overbought condition with the passage of time compared to weakness or rolling over and coming down. Now, underneath the surface, there are a lot of stocks that are coming down. Not all stocks are just going perfectly sideways. I'm going to show you those so you can actually see that, maybe some stuff you've been wanting to take profits on, or you didn't want to like hang on to these forever. So let me just show you those two. All right, if you can look at the NASDAQ, this is the QQQE, this is like the RSP, this is the equal weight of the NASDAQ. And you can see that, when was this? This was basically coming into August. And you can see that there was, in fact, August seasonal weakness. We did come down after this huge run up, really, really big, massive move to the upside, needed to pull back, needed to do something, and there's your pullback. But ever since the pullback, it hasn't really been rolling over. It also has really just kind of been maintaining this sideways action. And where you can see here, coming into the higher time frames, this has done a pretty good job of pulling back into higher time frame support like the weekly chart, coming into the weekly 21 and doing a great job like this. So I do like to look at monthly and weekly charts. This is again part of the long-term trading class that I just did on Thursday. I showed nothing but monthly and weekly charts. And I think people see me when I trade and look at this and like, oh, these short-term traders, swing traders, always looking at the daily and hourly. Like, no, I always look at the monthly and weekly. So if you guys are curious, come on over, come into the Moxie trading room, simplertrading.com/Moxie, pick up that long-term trading class, and you can kind of see what I look at for this kind of stuff. Okay, then we can look at the IWM. Kind of very similar to the RSP. It's right here at previous highs, right up in there. It did pull back a little bit this week, but once again, it's right back up. So like nothing can get this market to really actually stay down. And I think we need to pay attention to that. We get these little bits of where we get a little bit overbought and we do get pullbacks, but these pullbacks just keep going right back up. So IWM small caps are still actually staying very strong. And I think we can attribute that to interest rates being cut pretty soon. So the expectations of that. And then let's look at the SMH. This is the semiconductor ETF. Now look at this. You can see here is the previous all-time high, and look where it is. It's really just sitting there. This too is looking pretty good. Now the SMH, you can see it's kind of done this rounded top and come over a little bit, but for the most part, it's really hasn't broken lower. And these dips continue to keep getting bought. So we do have a position on SOXL as far as the semiconductors. I'd like to get more. I was expecting maybe a little bit more of a pullback down to here. We're not getting it. These things are really just going sideways, and that's what they're doing. We had this huge move to the upside, and now they're just kind of chilling sideways. And so I think it's just a matter of time until the market's going to go higher at some point. And we can look at the FANG stocks. This is the ETF of the FANG stocks. And what's notable here is it did actually make new all-time highs, and it's stuck. It did pull off a little bit, it was a little too high, came down a little bit, but it is making new all-time highs and it's staying. That is notable. And look what it did too. It really just bull flagged right into the daily 50. Eventually it decided that it was strong enough, and it decided to pop up, and it's making new all-time highs, and they're staying. So that's kind of what I think that the market might be doing. And anybody who's going to probably be too bearish and too negative for September, since September is usually the weakest time of the year, and we do have some things that should be bringing it down, I think we might get surprised to the upside. Okay, look at ARKK. This is Kathy Wood's funds, and same kind of deal. I've been short on this a couple times. They worked like once and twice. Okay, but then look, now we're just kind of going sideways. We are in this kind of pennant situation. Looks to me like eventually this thing's probably just going to flag, do like the FNGS, and eventually go higher. Because you can just see here, it's not breaking down. It is put in higher lows. This all is looking fairly good. And now we just have to be patient and wait for the market to actually take it higher when we want it to. Okay, then let's take a look here and at the breadth readings. And I'll be honest, this is kind of just looking a little bit sideways. Again, very much like the market, right? Really just kind of sideways. Now, for a while here, I was looking at this as potentially a bear flag. And I was also looking at this kind of topped out. And we did get a pullback. We did get that. But now we're really just kind of perfectly sideways. We haven't really gotten overbought, oversold. It's really just kind of sideways. So I don't have too much to work with this other than when it reaches these high points to kind of expect some sort of pullback. But this is not rolling over. I really wanted to see if we were going to get some low dips, low moves in order to like really see things. But this market keeps kind of holding up. So it continues to demonstrate to me that things are looking pretty strong out there, overall, just generally. So I do definitely think we are in a bull market. And if you look at the VIX, we did have a little bit of a pop, let's see, this week. So, there's the pop. And that, I think, gave some altitude for the VIX to then come down, which then helped the market kind of stay up. So again, every time the VIX kind of pops, that gives you a little bit of a breath of fresh air in order to short the VIX and go long on the market. And that's what we're seeing there. And then if we look at the UVIX, there's really not much to say here. The only thing I've been pointing out is that every time that the UVIX recently has gotten over or near the hourly 50, it continues to fail it. So until this thing turns and until this thing hooks a trend to the upside, there's really not much to do. I do understand that the Moxie Indicator has kind of been turning up. I've been watching this, but nothing's sticking yet. There might be. I'm always open to the idea that we get a kind of a surprise move to the downside, but it's kind of hard to argue when the S&P just made new all-time highs. So I'll be watching this, but so far nothing's really happening. Okay, let's come over to Hood. We got Robinhood. I'll show you the extended hours, and you can see it's up to 107. So right there. Now, what I've been talking to the Moxie subscribers and traders about this is, we've been seeing the market sideways. The FANG stocks are starting to kind of move up. The market did make new all-time highs, but the market's still not really just going yet. And I think kind of what I'm putting together is, I think part of what's happening is some of the bigger name stocks, like I'm going to show you guys Microsoft and NVIDIA, AMD, Robinhood, Palantir, some of the leaders of this market are still basically down, and they haven't quite reached their support or reached their equilibrium or really reached the base where they're ready to go higher from. And so I think that is partly of what's kind of keeping the market contained, is because the leaders are not leading yet. The leaders are still kind of pulling back a little bit. Now, I know Robinhood just had news. Okay, this hasn't been factored into the action and activity for this week because it happened Friday after the close. So we'll see what that does. But even though it's up here at 107, I wouldn't imagine it's just going to keep ripping. I would prefer, and we'll see if this actually happens, I'd like to see if it pops up and see if it can kind of find some support, and maybe we can actually find an entry into it. So I'm not going to be too eager to jump right into this, mostly because the Moxie Indicator is also telling me, like, look, we probably have some time until this thing really wants to get going to the upside. So then let's come over to here, and then I'll show you guys Microsoft. And you can see here, Microsoft also has been generally trending lower ever since it had its kind of earnings blow off top. And this is fine. I think this is okay. I think this is normal and healthy, because this thing was an absolutely ginormous move off of the tariff tantrum lows. It just got bought up every single day, and then it finally blown off some steam. I think this is a perfectly normal run-of-the-mill type pullback because it was just so high. And you can really kind of see this on the monthly and weekly charts. Like, this thing was just screaming. And the fact that it's now coming back into something closer to the weekly 21, I think will eventually be a good thing. But you know what? The market's probably not going to just rip and roar to the upside until something like this starts to get on board. And what we're going to have to do is watch stocks like Microsoft and the others to see when they find their support, when they stop going down, and when they're ready to start moving up. And you can see the same thing about NVIDIA. Huge move. It's been great. It's been fantastic. But you know what? It's letting some steam off. It's letting some air out. It's cooling off. And, unlike the market, which is just going sideways to rest, there are names, notable names, that are starting to come down into support. And hopefully at some point we will find these things to find some support, and then we can go back up. And when that happens, that's when I think the market is going to get going. And you know what? We might just have to wait a few more weeks of September in order for that seasonal weakness to kind of go by. Okay, BMNR, the Bitcoin treasury. So this is what I'm seeing, is that there was news back here when Kathy Woods, ARKK, and a bunch of other funds were buying BMNR. And you know what? It still went lower, didn't it? That is just how the market goes. And then we had a huge, I think it was about 50% shot up, actually double, 100%, 30 to 60. So big move. And it's been gently pulling back. Kind of the same thing with Microsoft and NVIDIA and Robinhood. You know, it was too big of a move going into some seasonal weakness, and now it's just pulling back. It's been a little bit longer and steeper of a pullback than what I was kind of hoping for and expecting. I was looking for maybe this to be the area where it stopped, but that's okay. It's really just coming back to this area. Look at that, right back to where it was before. So kind of, you know, no harm, no foul. And I'm starting to see this is starting to bump up a little bit, and it makes sense. This is coming into previous price support, and now this is where Kathy Woods is buying more. She's basically adding more at her previous buy point. So I would be looking at BMNR right in through here if you guys are interested in this ticker. And Ethereum, we know Ethereum has been doing absolutely great, and same kind of deal. It got overbought. Now the question is, what is it going to do? Is it going to pull back, or is it going to flag? You can see in the past that it's definitely pulled back pretty hard, so you kind of had to watch out for that. But I think we are in a new world and a new era for Ethereum, and basically instead of pulling back hard, I think we're going to do either a little pullback or a flag. And I think, again, just like the market, it's probably just a matter of time until this thing wants to go higher. And so I think you just need to find the right spot to get in as to when this thing wants to keep going up. Now let's take a look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has been having a little bit of a problem. It's been having some troubles. And I don't know if it's just, you know, seasonality and kind of the market, you know, because Bitcoin is still kind of a risk-on asset in the market. You know, Bitcoin is not going to just keep ripping to the upside if the market's kind of coming down, which I think we're experiencing. And maybe Bitcoin got a little extended, you know, a little high up here. But look what it's doing. It's coming right back into kind of this previous level. It is coming into the weekly 21. And so let's see if this thing starts to find some support. And I would imagine at some point, all of these things are going to start cycling back to the upside eventually. I think we're going to have a pretty good run into the end of the year. I don't see any super clues yet. Maybe we're starting to see a little bit of turnaround for Bitcoin here, but I'm in no hurry to jump into this. I can still be patient and wait for my proper setups on these things. Okay, Tesla, let's take a look at this one. And again, if you look at the higher time frame, Tesla's been holding up pretty well. I know it hasn't really necessarily participated with the market, but as far as seasonal weakness or what this has been doing, it's really just been resting. I think this is like a sleeping giant that's about to be taken off. We're in it. We've got a pretty good position in it. I keep telling everyone the kitchen sink has been thrown at Tesla and it still won't go down. So I think Tesla is sitting right here. And now that you know, has Elon's pay package that came out, the market seems okay with that and seems very happy about it. So I am bullish on Tesla. Do with that what you will as far as that information. Okay, Lucid. Now on the other end of the spectrum, Lucid, not doing great. I did put out a video on my X account and into the channel. There's a YouTube channel called Engineering Explained. The guy's name is Jason. I think you guys should go check it out or go watch some videos about Lucid, because the company, or at least the car is amazing. The car has incredible engineering, their packaging, their batteries, their motors, their power. It really is quite a car. Now, unfortunately, they're just still getting started. They're still burning a lot of cash. They're trying to get out there. They're producing their new car, the Gravity. And so, you know, they're still a new company. And there's a lot of volume coming into Lucid. And I was looking now, it just had a reverse split. It was a 1 to 10 reverse split. So instead of being $2, it's now $20. And I was looking at $20 as being a pretty solid level that I was pretty confident about. I was like, okay, this should be fine. And then I think that right now they just use the reverse split as kind of an excuse to run it down a little bit further. Okay, I'm not so thrilled with this. Yes, I'm down money on this. But the other thing that I was noticing is I was like, this seems to be a little bit of a trickery around here, and I think it's just an excuse. And you can see here they ripped it down and then they ripped it back up on Friday. So Friday was a pretty big day. And look, we had even more volume on the up day for Friday. So I'm kind of leaning towards this might be the low. Again, I can't guarantee that or promise that or anything yet, but I am interested to see if this is the low and if we actually start working our way back up a little bit, and then we'll see what happens. So I'm invested. I'm certainly keeping an eye on what's going on with Lucid, and I thought I would just kind of share the recent events with Lucid. All right, MCHP, and this is just another example of what I want you guys to kind of see, I think, is going on with the market out there. again, the market and so many names had massive moves off of the tariff tantrum lows. And then we just ran into resistance, and it was time to kind of rest. And you can see that from the highs, look what something like this is doing. It's just coming down here and resting. I think this is actually now looking like a pretty good base for something like this to start moving up. And that's why I'm saying that August and September have been resting months. Yes, there have been pullbacks. I know the market's sideways. I know the SMH is sideways. But underneath the surface, there have been names moving down, have been pulling back. But now that they've pulled back, they look to me like they're starting to rest. They're building bases. And I think a lot of names like this are about ready to get going to the upside. And if we look at something like IonQ, same kind of deal. We had a pretty big move up here. It ran into its previous all-time high. I have taken one trade on this thing, and it didn't work. You can see right there, it pulled back. But now look, it's right back here. And I think that's really what's happening here, is that it is really just resting underneath prior highs, so resistance. And I think it's a matter of time until these things go higher. So I'm encouraged. I'm looking forward to this. I think that there are some really big opportunities. This was a perfect time, guys. I'm telling you, if you're still watching this video, this is a perfect time to come into the Moxie room at simplertrading.com/Moxie. You can see it right there, because I think the market is about to get going sometime in September, maybe towards the end of September, because these things are all starting to warm up. At least that's what I'm seeing. And if you look at something like DDOG, same kind of deal. We had really big moves up off of the tariff tantrum lows. We are right here at previous highs. And you know what? They needed to pull back. They needed to rest and reset and recoup. And then you can see here, I think it's getting ready. I think it's pulled back. It's found some support, and it's trying to get higher. And I think eventually, probably into the year, I think these things are going to start lifting higher. So I'm pretty excited. I'm looking forward to it. We just have to kind of hunker down for a few more weeks until this market's really ready to go. And I think it's getting pretty close. So you guys have a good time. Remember, come over here, simplertrading.com/Moxie, and I'll see you at the next one. Take care.